Welcome back to Applied Security Engineering. Thanks for tuning in. I just want to say thanks to everyone who subscribed and like my videos. I just want to request everyone, if you like this channel, if you like the content, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And if you want me to do a video on any specific topic, please feel free to let me know. I'm more than happy to do that one. So today we will be doing the questionnaire based on the domain 1 of CSSLP exam. These are kind of like an exam based scenario questions, and some of the questions are really direct one. One thing I would like to mention before we jump into the questionnaire, um, it's a very important when you go for an exam just to highlight the key points in your question, because based on those key points you can eliminate the answers which are not relevant to those concepts and able to find the best possible options from it. So let's dive into the first question, which is a web application encrypts sensitive customer data while it is transmitted between service and restrict access to the data using role-based access controls when stored. Which security principle is primarily being addressed? And then you have like a couple of options over here: integrity, availability, confidentiality, and accountability. The first thing, key thing is, like you need to highlight the key points from this question. The first one is encrypts transmitted. So from this, TLS might come in your mind. Restrict access control, which is like, again, next one is role based access control. And based on those key points, you start eliminating things. Integrity, no, integrity, this is not like an integrity thing. Availability is again not a concept based on those key points. Accountability, if there is any question about logs and all that stuff, that comes under accountability. So the only other option left is the confidentiality. Like the confidentiality, when we discussed, I mentioned like there are some key things to remember against each concept. So encryption and then the access control are like core confidential mechanism. So based on that one, the best answer is C, which is confidentiality. Next question is, you will find these kind of questions in an exam where they say like best possible options to address this question. So which of the following best help ensure confidentiality? So that is like a key point over here of sensitive data in application logs. So here you see like two very kind of like obvious things in it: confidentiality and application logs. When you mark those things and start reading the question, like the answers, digital signatures does not apply over here, because that is more like kind of a non-repudiation concept, where you sign the code and then you can track it back. The let's remove all other options and then we come to the correct one. The second option is hashing log entries. Now hashing is like kind of a one way. You cannot once you hash the entries, you cannot unhash, I would say, like, so there is no way you can select this hashing. Input validation does not apply over here because that is again not a core concept in terms of the basic, like the integrity, availability, and confidentiality. So that is not a, it's more like kind of an implementation thing. So the only other option which left is like encryption of the log files. So once you encrypt the log files, that maintains the confidentiality, and then that's the application logs is very clear over here. So encryption of the log files is the correct answer here. Question 3, a software system must detect whether data has been modified. So the key point over here is modified during storage or transmission. Okay. Which mechanism best satisfies this requirement? So again, like you, they might all applicable over here. Modified access control can be used. Hashing can be used, but you need to find out the best available option out of all those. When you talk about like encryption, so from encryption you cannot find out if the data has been modified or not. um, you have a one set of a data which you encrypted, and then you can decrypt it. So there is no obvious way you can find out if there is any modification happen with the data or not. Access control is not like a is not like applicable to this one, because access control is again like giving the permissions to the user who can do the work. And then the authorization is again not a concept applicable over here, because it gives authorize the user who can do this function or who cannot do this function. So the only other option which left is hashing, because hashing is the one way where if any one of the so for example, if you hash the password and then you change any one bit in it and then you hash it again, you would get the same results. So that's where you can find out if the data has been modified or not. So yeah, that's like the best way of addressing questions, to start eliminating the wrong option, then and you come up with the best option. Um, an application restrict access to financial system. Okay, so it's only available during business hours to authorized users. Okay, which security concept is most directly being applied over here? So I think there are, I forgot to highlight, but there are a couple of things. Restrict access, and then available during business hours to authorized users. So these are like kind of a key things in this question. So you need to find out confidentiality, availability, authentication, non-repudiation. So non-repudiation is definitely not here, because non-repudiation is like where you cannot deny the act you did, but there is no as such act happening here in this question. Authentication is just to validate the user. So again, that is not applicable over here. Confidentiality is not like confidentiality does not apply to restrict the access to a financial system. So the only other option which is left is the availability, because you see like only available during business hours. So we want system to be accessible to this to the user in a specific time. So availability is the option here. Question 5: which statements true about authorization? So there are a couple of statements over here. Authorization must occur before authentication. Now that's not right, because you authenticate the user first to make sure like it's a valid user, and then you authorized it. The second option is authorization verifies identity. Now authentication verifies identity. And then you have authorization ensures data confidentiality. No, that's not right. And then the only other option is authorization, because like via authorization you can just authorize this user can access this data or not. So the only other option which is left is C, authorization control access to the resources. So that is like kind of a best answer over here. Question 6. A system records user actions along with timestamp and source IP address. Which principle does this most directly support? Sorry. So like there are a couple of things over here. One thing is like you have to consider like we are logging something with the timestamps and the source IP address. So confidentiality does not come here. Integrity is about if there is any changes in the data. Authorization is again not, because authorization is where you're giving an access to the user. So the only other option which is left is accountability. When you record anything, that comes under the accountability. So let's have a look at the question number 7, which is again a scenario based question. Like in which scenario best violates the principle of least privilege? Like it's a very tricky one. So it shows like all the options are right. There is a one only which can be violates the principle of least privilege. So we just need to eliminate the options again, like the temporary admin access during the incident response. So it's again like a temporary access. You cannot say like it's violate the principle of least privilege. Read only access for reporting services. That is a concept of least privilege. Role-based access control, again, a principle of least privilege. So the only other option left is the service account with wildcard permissions. So that's how you can find out your best answer. Next, have a look. Oh, actually, like I have the numbering wrong over here. So it's question number 8 actually. A financial application uses TLS, okay, to protect the data in transit. That makes sense. Role-based access control. So they have implemented the role-based access control to restrict who can view customer records and cryptographic hashes to verify that transaction data has not been altered. Okay, so there are again like key concept TLS, role-based access. They are using hashes. Which security objective is being addressed by the use of cryptographic hashes? Okay, that is again like a interesting one. If you look at the confidentiality, so TLS, they are using TLS, the data in transit, to maintain the confidentiality of the data. Um, and then like role-based access control has been implemented for the authorization. And then the hashing, you see like over here hashing, that detects actually unauthorized changes, and that comes over here like an integrity. So that's how like you can find out which one is your best option over here. It in normally like there is a trap over here which you can say encryption and hashing are often confused, like so hashing does not hide data. It's a one way of encryption, so yeah, so the best answer over here is integrity. Cool. Again, a scenario based, a cloud based application requires user to authenticate. So, authenticate is in a highlight over here using multi factor authentication. Okay, so they have a multi factor authentication over here, like we discussed in previous videos, defense in depth. So, they have this thing in place. After authentication, users are granted access based on their assigned roles. Okay, all user actions are logged. Okay, so they have accountability and digitally signed to prevent denial of performed action. Digitally signed, so that means they've implemented non-repudiation as well, so no one can deny the act. Which combination of security concept is being applied over here? So if you want to save your time during the exam as well, you need to find out the key ones over here. So if I'm sitting in an exam and I see this thing over here where they said like digitally signed to prevent denial of performed actions, immediately the non-repudiation is the option comes in my mind. Again, in all of these questions, this is authentication, authorization, confidentiality, authorization, integrity, availability, confidentiality, accountability, and integrity. None of these three options talk about non-repudiation. So the only option which talk about non-repudiation is C. So immediately, like that is my best option. For example, if you there is an option, maybe they confuse it by adding non-repudiation in any other ones. Then you can roll it back to one step back to see like is there any, for example, like confidentiality, accountability, and non-repudiation. So there is if we talk about accountability, there is no accountability over here because actually they are all action are logged. But yeah, again, the point is to make, if they add non-repudiation in couple of options, then you need to eliminate which of the security concept does not apply over here. But for to save the time, if you find any quick wins, like in this instance, just go for it. Don't waste your time. So again, these are like kind of exam-based questions for the domain one. Next, I will continue with the domain two. And then, yeah, if you find this content helpful, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon. Thank you.